Good morning, church. I'm Eddie. What a blessing it is to be diving into God's Word with you today. We're going to take a look at Job chapter 18. To give you a little bit of a background, Job was a righteous man in the eyes of God, and Satan challenged God with that and said that Job was only serving God because of all the ways that God had blessed him. And so God allowed Satan to essentially take away all of those blessings. And so Job was stricken with illness, and his children were killed, and all of his cattle and things were taken away from him, and his health was taken away from him. And so what we see is that his friends come to visit him. And they start to debate what caused the circumstances that Job's in right now. And back in chapter 17, Job said, "My spirit is broken," in verse 1. And then in verse 15 he says, "Where then is my hope?" So Bildad, one of his friends, is responding here in verse 18. He says this: "Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, How long till you put an end to words? Gain understanding, and afterwards we will speak. Why are we counted as beasts, and regarded as stupid in your sight? You who tear yourself in anger, shall the earth be forsaken for you, or shall the rock be removed from its place?" So clearly you can see that Bildad's kind of offended that Job is questioning what his friends are telling him about his circumstances. And then you see moving into verse 5, he says this: "The light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. The light is dark in his tent, and the lamp beside him is put out. The steps of his strength are shortened, and his own counsel cast him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he will walk into a snare. The net takes him by the heel, and a snare lays hold of him. A noose is hidden for him on the ground, and a trap for him in the road." So what you see, what Bildad is telling him is that your sin is basically a snare, that it's a trap. And those that do wicked should expect to be ensnared by that, by their sin, that this is just for them to receive punishment for their sin. And so that, and going on in verse 11 here, he says, "Terrors frighten him on every side, and drive him to his feet. His strength is starved, and destruction is ready at his side. It devours patches of his skin. The firstborn of death devour his limbs. He is uprooted from the shelter of his tent. And they parade him before the king of terrors. They dwell in his tent who are none of his. Brimstone is scattered on his dwelling. His roots are dried out below, and his branches wither above. The memory of him perishes from the earth, and he has no name among the renowned. He is driven from the light into darkness, and chased out of the world. He has neither son nor posterity among his people, nor any remaining in his dwellings. Those in the west are astonished at his day, as those in the east are frightened. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him who does not know God." So you can see right here, he's basically calling out Job. He even points out specific things. He talks about the skin, and you know that Job has got a skin disease, and then he talks about his shelter, and he pretty much lost his home and all of his belongings. And then in verse 14, it talks about they parade him before the king of terrors. Many think that the king of terrors here is referring to to death, because it's the most terrible thing you can think of. It's the scariest thing you can think of, is death. And so, and you see, he's practically hoping, and Job is practically hoping for death throughout all this situation. And it talks about in verse 19, it says, neither son nor posterity. I mean, he's talking about he doesn't have any family left. They're all dead. They're all gone. And so, and he's basically saying at the very end there, he says he doesn't know God. He's basically saying, those that don't know God deserve these things. Those that are wicked deserve this. But what we know that he doesn't know is that what we learned in the first chapter of Job is that Job is righteous. God himself even said Job is righteous. And so it's actually the opposite is happening. It's not Job's wickedness that's causing this to happen, but it's his faithfulness. His faithfulness is actually bringing about these trials in his life. And so what's the takeaway from all this? Well, the takeaway is this, is that life's not going to be easy. God puts us through trials to strengthen our faith. And so my prayer for you today is that whatever trials you might be going through, and just know that God has a perfect plan for you. James chapter 1 says this, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So just know that God is doing a mighty work in you. And I love you guys, and have a great day.